Hi everybody, today I'm going to be talking you through the Brownie Coding for Good badge and how to complete that using Scratch. So Scratch is an online program which can be accessed from the internet. In your web address bar at the top here, you need to type in scratch.mit.edu, and then if you've never joined Scratch before, you need to click on Join Scratch. Make sure you've got a parent to help you with this part, because you'll need to enter things like email addresses, and they can also just make sure that you press the right things or type the right things. Once you've done that and you've joined up on Scratch, you then need to click sign in. So I've already put in my username and password. I'm going to click sign in, and the first thing that you're going to do is you're going to click on create. So that will allow you to create a project. Okay, now some of you may have used Scratch before, but if you haven't, don't worry, it's fairly easy to use. This area in the middle, this is where we're going to be doing our coding. This is where we're going to be typing our code. This area over here, this is the animation screen. This is where you're going to see your characters and your backgrounds doing things. So this is kind of like the show area. And then over here on the left, these are all the instructions, all the blocks of code that we're going to use in the middle here. So we're going to choose which blocks of code we want, and they're all color coded. So if we want a block to do with motion, we would go for blue. If we want a block to do with sound, we would go for purple, and so on. Now, the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to choose a character and a backdrop. So for the example, I would suggest just following along with what I'm doing, and then afterwards you could have another go at this and create your very own project. So I'm going to choose a backdrop, so clicking on here. Actually, the backdrop you choose can be whatever you like, it doesn't really matter, but I'm going to show you how to make a ballerina dance. So I'm going to go for a backdrop that I think would be suitable for my ballerina. I think I'm going to go for this one called Party. So choose a backdrop for your ballerina. Once you've done that and you've got a backdrop that you're happy with, you then need to get rid of the character that they've given you. We're not going to be working with the cat today, so I'm going to just delete this cat, or sprite 1. All of the characters in Scratch are called sprites, so we're going to delete that by pressing the trash can down here, and we're going to click here to choose a sprite. And as I said, I'm going to show you how to program the ballerina. You can see just when I'm hovering it over it here that it's showing you how it dances. So if I click on the ballerina, it's now put a ballerina in the center. Now I'm going to move the ballerina right down here, and I'm going to make her a little bit bigger. So at the moment she's size 100. Let's make her 150. So that just makes her a bit bigger. Okay, lovely. So we've got a character and we've got a backdrop. Once you've got a character and a backdrop, you're then ready to start animating them or doing some programming. Now, if you need to pause this tutorial at any time because you're following along on your own device, please feel free to press pause. There's nothing wrong with that. But if you're ready, let's go on to the next steps. Okay, so the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to choose an event. And this is an event that I use for all of my Scratch programs. It's called When the Green Flag is Clicked. All of the events pretty much start with when, because an event is when one thing happens, something else happens. The event is like a trigger. So we're saying when the green flag is clicked, when I click this green flag, I want something to happen. And then underneath this block, when the green flag is clicked, we're going to say what we want to happen. Okay, now you can see that there's a faint ballerina here in the corner. That tells me that I'm working on my ballerina. I'm going to make something happen to do with my ballerina sprite. So I'm going to go to looks, and I'm going to say that when the green flag is clicked, I want her to go to her next costume. And I'm going to show you what that does. When I click the green flag, see, she's changed to her next costume. If I click the green flag again, she's changed to another costume, and she's back to the beginning. Now, you might be thinking, that's weird because I think of costumes as being what she's wearing. Well, costumes aren't always talking about what somebody's wearing. In Scratch, the costumes are the different poses that the different characters can do. So if I click on costumes here, you can actually see her costumes down the side. She's got 1, 2, 3, 4 costumes. And you can choose which of these costumes you're going to use, and each costume's got a different name: ballerina A, ballerina B, ballerina C, and ballerina D. You can also edit these costumes. So you can actually, if you did want to change things, you could give her a different colour dress, for example. But then you would have to do it on all of the other costumes unless you wanted her to flick between colours. Anyway, I'm going to go back to the code. I'm not going to mess around with her costume for now, so I'm going back to code, because this is what we need to do for our Brownie badge. So the first part of the Brownie badge is to create an algorithm for a computer. Now, an algorithm is a set of instructions. So far, we've got one instruction. When the green flag is clicked, next costume. But I don't want her just to switch costume once, because that's not a very good dance. That's just her squatting down, and then she stays there. So what we need to do is we need to say that we want her to switch costume again after that. If I put next costume again, let's see what happens here. Next costume. If I press green flag now, okay, she only did it once. Okay, we need to actually put a little wait block. So I need to go to control and I need to put a little wait here. Wait 0.5 seconds, and then you'll actually see her switching from one costume to the other. So if I press the green flag, she should this time change costumes twice. Go next costume, wait, next costume. There we go. So you saw her change costume twice. The reason it doesn't work without the wait is because it automatically skips through quickly to the last one, and you don't see it doing the different costume changes. So you need that little wait in there so that you can see 2 costume changes. Okay. Now, I could then say wait again, then next costume, then I could say wait again, next costume. So I could keep writing that, but then it's a very long algorithm. It's a very long sequence. So what I actually want to do is, instead of having all of those blocks, I'm going to just take those ones off of the bottom and move them to the side. We're going to change it to make it so that we use a loop. So if you click under control, there is a block called forever. And if I put that forever block there, now I'm saying when the green flag is clicked, I want her to forever go next costume, wait 0.5 seconds, next costume, wait 0.5 seconds, next costume, wait 0.5 seconds. So she's doing that in a loop. Let me just show you that by clicking the green flag. Okay, now it actually looks like our girl is dancing because she keeps on moving. And then if I press on the stop button, she will stop. Now, at the beginning, before the show starts, or before they press the green flag, we may not want her in this position because she doesn't look like she's ready to start a dance. She looks like she's halfway through the dance. So the other thing we need to do is we need to choose which costume we want her to have at the start. So if we look at her costumes again, you can see that ballerina A looks like she's stood nicely ready to dance. So in my code, I'm also going to say, under looks, I'm going to use this one, switch costume to. I'm going to say when the green flag is clicked, I want her to switch costume to ballerina A. That means that she'll always switch to ballerina A before she starts doing all of her crazy dancing. So let's just do that again. Click on go and stop. So she's stopped like this. Let's see if I press the green flag, does she go back to the first pose? Yes, she did, but only very briefly. Let's put a little wait in that again, because I think she goes straight on to the forever part. So let's put a wait after. So under control, if we choose one that says wait, we're now saying when the green flag is clicked, we want her to switch to her first position and wait, should we say for 3 seconds? And then she's going to start her moving between costumes. There we go, 1, 2, 3, and then she started. See, that looked much nicer, didn't it? If you didn't want the loop to go on forever and ever and ever, you can choose how many times. So you could say repeat for 10 times. So if we didn't want that to keep going, let's say we wanted the dance to end at some point, we can just change the forever block to a repeat block. It's still a loop, but it's a loop that we've given a specific amount of time. So we're saying we want her to do it 10 times. And then after she's finished her loop, maybe we then want her to go back to that very beginning pose, because we wouldn't want her to finish the dance and freeze like this in midair, although that would be very impressive. So let's go back to looks, and again, say after she's repeated it 10 times, we want her to switch to ballerina A again. So let's try that out. 1, 2, 3. There we go, she's dancing. She should do this about 10 times. And then, yep, she's paused with our initial costume. Okay, so that's really nice. So we've got our ballerina doing a dance. And the way we've done it is we've put these blocks together in a sequence. So we've chosen the order of how things happen. It would be no good to put the weight in the wrong place at the bottom, because she's already stopped at the bottom because there's nothing else happening. So there's no point having the weight there, the weight has to go there. All of these instructions have to go in the specific order that we've given them. So we've created an algorithm for our computer to follow to know what our ballerina does. Okay, we've used a loop, which was making her do the dance over and over again, or do the moves over and over again. And we've also used an event. The event is when the green flag is clicked. Okay, great. So step 1 was to create the algorithm, which you've done. Step 2 was to use a loop to make your algorithm better, which you've done. Step 3 was to use events to make things happen. So you've used the green flag as your event. And step 5 is to create your own set of commands that use events. So I'm going to give you some ideas for some other events that could happen to make your ballerina do something. So I'm going to show you some other ideas here now. Okay, so I'm going to show you how to do some other events now. So let's click on events. I'm going to show you how to use keys to make things happen. So let's go for this one, and let's say when the up arrow key is pressed, we want her to, oh, do you know what? Let's go for left and right. Let's make her glide across the room and back. So let's say when the right arrow key is pressed, we want her to glide across. Okay, so let's say go to motion now. And can you see that there's a glide one here? We don't really want her to glide to a random place. We're going to say where we want her to glide to. So we're going to take this one here, and we're going to say glide to, and at the moment, these are the coordinates of where she is now. If you look down here, it says sprite ballerina, and she is at -69, -41 on the screen. So if in the middle was 0, 0, it's like an axis in maths where you've got the x-axis that goes across and you've got the y-axis that goes up and down. So her position anyway on the screen is -69, -41. But if I move her across to here, you can see the coordinates change to 111 -36. So let's pop those in here, 111 and -36. If I put her back now to the beginning and I press the green flag, she'll start all of her stuff. But if I press the right arrow, which is my other event, she glides. That's very clever that she can glide while she's dancing. Let's make it so she can also glide left. So a really quick way to do that is to right click and duplicate. So now we've got two of the same blocks, and this time we're going to change it to when the left arrow key is pressed. Now at the moment, when I press the left arrow key, she doesn't go anywhere, and that's because she's already in this position, and we want her to move this way now. So if I move her across my screen to about here, let's look at the coordinates, -107, -36. Type it in here, -107, -36. So now I can press the green flag to make her get started, and I can make her glide from right to left using my arrow keys. Well, isn't that lovely? Okay, so I'm using the left and right arrow key. So now we've got 3 events in this piece of programming. We've got when the green flag is clicked, that's the first event. We've got when the right arrow key is pressed, that's the second event. And we've got when the left arrow key is pressed, that's our third event. It doesn't matter what order, we can press these arrows whenever we like. When the green flag is clicked is normally our starting event in Scratch. I'm also going to get her to talk. So I'm going to add in, using looks, I'm going to add in a speech bubble, and I'm going to get her to say something at the beginning. So at the beginning, I'm going to have another event running. So as well as her switching her costume to Ballerina A and waiting for 3 seconds, while she's waiting for 3 seconds, I'm also going to get her to say something. So when the green flag is clicked, I don't just want her to do this, I also want her to do something else. So I'm going to get her to, let's go to looks, let's get her to say, hello, welcome to the show. Welcome to the show for 2 seconds. Okay, so let's try that out. When I press the green flag, hello, welcome to the show. And now she's started her dancing, and we can move her around, gliding from side to side. Okay, so these 2 events, or these 2 pieces of programming, happen at the same time. They're triggered by the same event, by the green flag being clicked. Okay, and then we've got these other 2 events using the arrow keys. You can just move these blocks of programming around, but you have to move them by the top block, not by the bottom ones, otherwise they come apart. If you ever want to get rid of blocks, you can just chuck them off the side of the screen like that, and bring them back again. Okay, so we've got some really nice things that are happening here with our ballerina. Let's just do one more thing. Let's do something at the end of her show. So when she's finished doing her dancing, why don't we get somebody to come on and clap? That would be really exciting. So let's choose another character now. So I'm going to click choose a sprite, and we're going to choose an audience member. I might choose one that's actually, I wonder what she does. She looks like she might clap. Nearly. It's not quite clapping. Let's see if anybody actually claps. Actually, should we try typing in clap and see if anybody claps? Clapping, no. Let's go back to people. Okay, let's choose an audience member. No, anyone clapping here? So you can see when you hover what their different costumes are, the different things that they can do. Okay, I might have to go with the lady and adapt it so she's clapping. She almost looks like she's clapping, so I think I'm going to go for her. Oh, she puts her hands up together, that one though. Sure, that might be easier. Okay, let's go for Abby, because I think I can make her clap. So I'm going to choose Abby. And at the moment, you can see Abby is facing the wrong way. So I'm going to turn Abby around. So make sure you clicked on Abby. And then can you see where it says direction? You click on direction. Can you see this one here? It's got a left or right. If I click on that. Oh, there we go. Okay, yeah, so you just need to pull it across the, yeah, click left or right and then pull it over the top. If you're clicking on the rotate instead, it spins her, woo, like that, okay? But I don't really want her spun around. I want her facing the other way. So instead of having it on rotate, click on left or right, and then you can make her face the direction you want. Okay, so now Abby is facing the direction that I want. Okay, so we've got Abby ready now. We'll just make sure she's at the edge of the screen so that she's out of the way of our ballerina. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put in some programming for Abby. So I'm going to say for Abby, when the green flag is clicked, and I'm going to get her to hide at the beginning. So I'm going to say looks, and I'm going to say hide. Where is it? There we go, hide. Okay, now because this is an interactive animation, I'm not necessarily going to make it so that it all happens on its own. I'm going to choose an event that will make her show. So it could be that I just put in hide, wait for however many seconds it takes for the ballerina to dance, and then show, if you wanted it to happen automatically. Or you could have something like press the space key to make her show as an event. It's completely up to you how you want to do that. So I'm going to say when the space key is pressed, looks, show. Where's the show gone? I think it's further down. There it is, show. Okay, so let's try that. So when the green flag is clicked, she hides. Hello, welcome to the show. Okay, so she's busy doing her dance. Remember, you can move her from left to right. Woo. Anyway, okay, so my ballerina has ended over here, so I just need to make sure I press the left character before I press the space to make my new character show. There we go. And you can see that she's showing now at the edge. And then I want her to bring her hands up and say, well done. So, and I might make a little clapping sound if we can. So I'm going to go to costumes. Oh, not her costumes. Click on Abby. Go to costumes. Okay, so we're just having a look at Abby's costumes, and if we go to costume number C, that is her clapping costume by the looks of it. Okay, so I'm going to click back onto her code, and now what we're going to do is we're going to make it so that she does change to costume C. So we're going to say looks, and let's choose which costume she is to begin with. So we're going to say when the green flag is clicked, she hides and she goes to the costume we want at the beginning. So Abby A, which if we click it, you can't actually see it at the moment, but if I press space, you can see her. So it's her arms down. And then we're going to say when the space key is pressed, she shows, and we want her then to, let's make her wait for a minute, for a few seconds. Let's say wait for 1 second, and then switch costume to Abby C, wasn't it, the clapping one? So let's just try that out. So when the green flag is clicked, she hides. Hello, welcome to the show. This one does her dancing. We can make her move left and right as many times as we want. Woo! And then she stops, then we can press the space key and she does that. Okay, so she has her hands down to start with. She waits for 1 second and then she switches to costume C, which is her hands up. And then I think we're going to make a little clapping sound. So I'm going to go to sound. Now it's suggesting that I want sound pop, which I don't. So we're going to go to sounds and we're going to find a sound. So down at the bottom, choose a sound. Let's type in, actually it might be just in alphabetical, it is in alphabetical order. Let's see if there's one that's called clap. Let's go down. Oh, can't see a clapping. Is there applause? Should we look for applause? Nope. Ooh. Or crowd, maybe? Let's try crowd. Oh, crowd gasp, crowd laugh. Let's try typing clap because I might have missed it. Clapping. Oh yeah, clapping. Oh, play it. Yeah, I quite like that one. I think we'll go for that one. So I'm going to click on clapping. You can see it's here. You can play around with it, make it faster, slower, louder, softer, but we'll keep it as it is, I think. So now it's giving us two options of sounds, pop or clap. If I go back to code, I can then choose to play the sound clapping until done. Okay, so let's try it out again. So press the green flag. Hello, welcome to the show. There you go, she's off dancing. I'm moving her left and right with my arrow keys. She's finished. I'm going to press space. And then after she's finished her clapping, I'm going to get her to switch her costume again back to Abby A. And I'm going to get her to say, oh, looks, let's do a speech bubble. Well done. Well done, ballerina. There we go. Let's make that 3 seconds so they've got time. People have got time to read it. I'm not going to do the whole lot. I'm just going to press the space key. So we don't actually have to start from the green flag. We can just start from the space key to test this part out. Okay. Now, oh yeah, well done, ballerina. Okay, so it did work. The reason she didn't start with her hands down was because we hadn't pressed the green flag, because we've got this part here, the switch costume to Abby A there. We could put it there if we wanted to. Let's try it this time. There we go. Okay, so that's lovely. So I think that we're pretty much done with that. Just one thing that I wanted to point out. Sometimes when you're working in programming, you might try something and it doesn't really work, or it doesn't go as you expect it to go. And then you have to play around with your code to move things about to make it work. And that requires something called perseverance. And that is a really great skill to have, perseverance. It means that you keep trying until you get it right. And when there's a problem with your code, we can sometimes say that there's a bug in the code or a bug in the programming, and solving that problem is called debugging. So there's a few other words just to introduce you to in programming. So just to remind you, that's the programming for the ballerina or the algorithms that we've created. And this is the programming or the algorithms that we've created for Abby, who was our second character. Now you can give your project a name up at the top here. So I'm going to just call it Ballerina Show. And you can press save. Save now. It might already say saved because it does save as you go along. To come back to it another time, let's say I've just logged into Scratch. If I click on Scratch, let's say I've just logged in and I want to get back to my ballerina project. If you click on your little arrow next to your username and go to My Stuff, you will see at the top of your stuff is the project that you've been working on. And it is a private project unless you decide to share it. So if I click See Inside, I can go back inside it. So carry on working on it if I want to. But if I want to make it so that it's public, so that other people can view it on the internet, which you would need to do before you shared it, then you would have to, before you shared the link, you would have to press share. That makes your project live on the internet. It doesn't mean that loads of people will find it, but it means that if you give them the web address at the top here, that they could find that they could go to your project, and they can also comment on it or like it. Now, one of the rules of the Scratch community is that you're nice to other people or constructive to other people. So if you're ever commenting on anybody else's projects in Scratch, make sure you say nice things or suggestions for improvement, but you do it in a nice way, a polite way, and remember that there's lots of different people using Scratch. So it's nice to be respectful to everybody. Now here you'll notice that it says instructions, tell people how to use your project. So I'm going to say click the green flag to start. Oh, that was my first instruction. Then I'm going to say use the arrow keys to make the ballerina move. After the dance, press the space bar to see what happens. And then down at the bottom, notes and credits. So if you got an idea from somebody else, you can always say thank you to so-and-so for the idea. Or if you use somebody else's artwork, if you uploaded a character that someone had drawn, you could say thank you, that kind of thing. But you don't have to write anything in there if you don't want to. And you'll see actually there's a copy link button here, so you don't even have to copy it from here. You can copy the link for your project and share it with other people if you want to. So I hope you enjoyed today's tutorial. If you did, there are loads of other tutorials that you can check out, Scratch tutorials, on our website, www.cartwheelsandcreations.com, or you can search for us on YouTube and have a look at our programming tutorials or our computing tutorials on there, which are completely free and a lot of fun. We've got things like create a virtual pet, create a maze game, and so on. So yeah, check it out. There is one last step that you need to complete in order to get your Brownie Coding for Good badge, and that is the step 4, learn about women in computer science. Here are a few links that you can have a look at to learn about women in computer science.